I am Lucifer, the devil in the flesh.
I'm just being a pussy, sorry. I'm old, gray. And welcome back to the Thunder Rooster podcast.
My name is Ron.
And I'm Paul.
And we are excited to be back here with you today. And we're kind of going over a movie / paranormal episode this week. We're actually talking about the movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and also the true story it's based upon, which is actually The Exorcism of Anneliese Michel. Is it Michel or Michelle?
Michel.
Michel, okay. Not completely accurate on that. So.
You know where that came from, Michel.
Michel. Yeah. So what we're kind of going to go for, we'll tell you a little bit about the movie, and then I'll let Paul tell you a little bit about the actual
true
person.
Story.
Right. The truth. And nothing but the truth.
So help you God.
So this movie is actually, I wouldn't consider it a horror flick per se. It's really more of a kind of a dark crime drama. I mean, it's mostly like a courtroom-based thing, and they kind of give you a glimpse back and forth of what it was. But the movie starring Jennifer Carpenter as Emily Rose. We also have Laura Linney as Aaron Bruner, which is the defendant of the priest.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Father Richard, which is played by Tom Wilkinson.
Mm-hmm.
And also the opposing side, which is for the people, is Campbell Scott as Ethan Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
So The Exorcism of Emily Rose is a supernatural horror crime drama film directed by Scott Derrickson and starring who I just mentioned. Production companies Lakeshore Entertainment, and the budget they had to work with was about $19 million. I saw that movie when I was younger, probably right around when it came out, so I was probably about 19, 20 maybe when I saw it. I got a nice little story I'll share with you later about it, but let's hear about the true story that this is based on, because you see that at the beginning of some of these horror films, and of course when they say it's based on something, I mean it could just share just a basic thing,
right? Could be
and
just
everything
an event
else,
or two, not the entire story. Yeah.
Everything can be completely fiction, except for like one little detail, and they can say it's based upon a true story.
Yeah.
So this one is kind of one of those things where they did change some names, and a lot of stuff that happened within this character actually did happen.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get into more with that. Paul, why don't you fill us in about Anneliese Michel?
So Anneliese Michel is the main character that this movie is based around. We've talked in an earlier podcast, we discussed about The Exorcist, I'm sorry. And again, this is one of these things that come back to that it's, are we dealing with something that's a demonic possession, or is this mental illness? And this will come up a lot in a lot of different case studies, obviously. But for the time being, this is about Anneliese Michel. She was born in 1952, small town in Klingenberg, Germany, and she was raised as a very strict Catholic. Right. So she did have a lot of religious views in place. So that kind of does follow up a little bit with the movie.
Yeah.
So the way her events kind of get factored in as far as the case testimonies and whatnot. So her first episode she had when she was 16 years old. So right. September 68 was the first time where she was basically losing her consciousness.
Right, when she having seizures and stuff like that.
Correct. Yep. And one of the things that she was kind of feeling during her first encounter was, well, something's starting to strap her down and hold her down on a bed. And see, we're familiar with some of these things.
Excuse me.
But yeah, she that was her first situation with that. Her next episode was like somewhere in August of 69. And her mom came more concerned. Obviously, this is now the second event. They don't know what's going on with her. And this is like, the 60s at this point, where you don't know what's wrong with your child.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And didn't they take her to the hospital, and I think she was diagnosed with LPE, which is like or TLP. TLE. Why am I getting? I've been hearing PPE so much. I'm getting this mixed up. But it's TLE. It's a temporal lobe.
Or OPP. You down with me?
You know me.
You know me?
No.
Oh.
Temporal lobe epilepsy and psychosis.
Right.
I guess the psychosis caused by the TLP.
Right.
TLE.
Mm-hmm. So then she obviously gets consulted with the doctor. So, they have a family doctor. His name's Dr. Voigt. So he analyzes the situation with Anneliese. Then, obviously, with his insight to what was going on with her, he wanted to recommend another specialist. So he got a neurologist. His name was Dr. Luthi. And between Dr. Luthi and Dr. Voigt, they obviously went ahead and did some brain scans, and everything came out normal.
Right.
Nothing seemed to be out of place. They were just basically under the conclusion that this girl was just suffering, seizures. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of where they were, at that point. Then it's like, then you see she has 2 more encounters. So her breakdown for what happened was first episode in 68, second one in 69, brain scan. Then the third one comes, and the third one is 1970 or so. And during this encounter, they wanted to give her, antiviral medication, help from, vomit and things of that nature. But her brain scan still came to be normal. So they were still concerned, obviously, because these episodes weren't stopping. But then her 4th episode was in 72. And that's where things were a little bit tricky, because that brain scan came up irregular. So they're like, now what? Like, what could possibly be, what could be the culprit for this? Then she was prescribed medication. And I do forget the name of it, because we were actually told in the movie, which was...
Or was it Gambutrol?
Yeah, I think.
Something like that.
Check that real quick. But yeah, then it's just after this 4th episode, it takes another turn for the worse. I don't think you can feel like it's getting any worse than that after your 4th time. But the spring of 73, more of the internal conflicts with her arise, meaning she started knocking her head against the wall in her bedroom. So that was freaking her family out, obviously. And then to the point where she was hearing voices that was telling her that they were damning her to hell. That's where things kind of get creepy. And then obviously the one thing that was kind of really effed up in my mind that they had mentioned was that her mom caught her staring at one of the Virgin Mary statues in her bedroom. Mm-hmm. And she said that she saw the Virgin Mary's eyes turn black.
Yeah.
And the Virgin Mary's hands turn into like bear claws.
That would freak me
out. Doctor,
check please.
So yeah, jet black eyes and bare hands. That's just right. So obviously, as this stuff gets worse, then they consult back to her neurologist, and then at that point, basically what she's looking into is she's seeing visions at this point, about the devil being inside her. And she gets the recollection of a smell of burnt feces, which I guess what they've been saying is that that's kind of like an introduction that the dead is upon you.
It's like smelling sulfur or something, just like decaying. And wasn't this her friends and people she was in college with, I think at the time, they corroborated this story, which makes you wonder, it's like, what her burnt poop smells like? I honestly couldn't tell you what burnt poop smells like right now, but I'm assuming it smells something like sulfur.
Right. So then once that's been entailed, then it kind of gets interesting, because then with the help of the neurologist, they're able to seek outside help with a priest. Yeah. Basically, at this point, the findings said, you know what, you might want to look into a religious figure at this point. But later, obviously, in the trial, that was denied. The neurologist was like, no, I have no idea how this came about. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Yeah. So they find a priest. In this case, the priest is Father Alt. In the movie, it's Father Moore, correct?
Yeah, Richard Moore.
Richard Moore, yep. So Father Alt plays that plays that priest. So he meets with her in November 73, and basically with the priest and the psychiatrist, and they diagnose her with epilepsy. So then they give her medication for that. Obviously, what we saw in the movie as well, that was documented.
Yeah, that, by the way, that medicine that they have in the movie is obviously a pseudonym name type thing.
Right.
It wasn't the actual medication she was given. Just wanted to clear that.
No, thank you. No, I appreciate that. Yeah. So at that point, yeah, epilepsy. Then it's like, maybe they want to get another opinion from another neurologist, and then they diagnose her with epileptic patterns. So they give her epilepsy medication to see if that was going to obviously, suffice all this crap that she's dealing with over now, of course, 4 or 5 years at this point.
Yeah.
So then it's still not working. We're in about July 75, and then and we saw this within the movie. She starts to eat insects and bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't sleep, malnourished, didn't want to eat. And it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah,
she's licking her own urine from the floor.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Destroying, holy pictures, crucifixes, rosaries.
Right. She became very intolerant to Christian.
Yes. So everything
artifacts
that she was obviously brought up with and learned and loved, it's all turning against.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, with these characteristics, these things that were happening, she's very weak at this point, but yet she displays physical strength, like beyond a reasonable doubt, where there was a testament that she got in an argument with her sister and threw her like a rag doll. Right. But yet this girl is like under 100 pounds. She's malnourished and she's just literally struggling for life, but yet she was able to pick up her sister and throw her. I mean, that's just...
I'm not going to say it, but I'll enter a little clip here.
Don't mess with him.
You'll see.
That kid's got retard straight.
All right, back to it.
So then another priest is met named Father Rodowick,
mm-hmm.
and he is an expert on exorcism.
Right.
And after all this information, all these things, he's like, nah, I think this girl's possessed, and we need to start this.
Right.
So basically, with the permission, they meet with the bishop and that priest, and they do basically approve the idea of doing this exorcism for Anneliese.
Right. And not step on your toes or anything, but I did have a little letter here that Father Alt actually had.
Yeah.
This was whenever her mom thought it'd be a good thing to take her to this holy site. It's called San Damiano, I think, with a family friend. But she became intolerant to Christian artifacts and sacred objects and places like that. But he writes, Anneliese told me, and Frau Hein confirmed this, that she was unable to enter the shrine. She approached it with the greatest hesitation. Then she said that the soil burned like fire, and she simply could not stand it. She then walked around the shrine in a wide arc and tried to approach it from the back. She looked at the people who were kneeling in the area surrounding the little garden, and it seemed to her that while praying, they were gnashing their teeth. She got as far as the edge of the little garden, then she had to turn back. Coming from front again, she had to avert her glance from the picture of Christ in the chapel house. She made it several times to the garden, but could not get past it. She also noted that she could no longer look at medals or pictures of saints. They sparkled so immensely that she could not stand it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sucks.
It's pretty crazy.
That sucks a lot. Oh, man. That's no good.
So, yeah, they had trouble getting the approval for the exorcism, didn't they?
But they eventually did, but it needed to be done. I mean...
Yeah, they were able to get the favor of a couple bishops that were local instead of straight from the actual Catholic Church.
Right. So then, at this point, it's like, September 24th, 1975 is the first exorcism performed on Anneliese. And then what is really kind of frightening and I think we should put the link for this.
Okay.
Listen at your own risk if you want, but there is obviously tapes that were documented for this exorcism.
Yeah, if you're listening to us on the podcast, we have a YouTube channel, so we stream the video as well. So if you want, it's all in German. So, well, I mean, some of it's in other languages, but for the most part, it's in German. So we'll have some kind of transcribed thing you can read along with. So if you want to check that out, just head on over to our YouTube channel. You can find it through thunderrooster.com.
Perfect.
All right.
So you got about 42 recordings.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Well, it's crazy because in these movies, it only seems like it's like a week or weekend full of exorcisms. But
Right. No,
I mean, these things take months, if not years.
Yeah, it's not just within a couple hours.
It's like you have to have like 52 rounds with the demons, you know.
He's like, you're in, got my holy water, check. Okay, got the towel, check. Got the crucifix, check.
Right.
2 hours, we're good.
Yeah.
It should be done. Yeah. Send my bill.
Excuse me.
So you got about 42 recordings, and I listened to some of it, and it's pretty freaky.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to. I was like, nah, you know what? Just let bygones be bygones. Nope. I listen to it.
And, you know, with these recordings and everything, even with the story itself, to tie in with the movie, I mean, a lot of things that happened with her real life, although it's condensed down into a movie, but they share a lot of stuff that actually happened or, you know, might have happened.
Right.
Who knows? But, yeah, when we get back from this little clip, you'll have the recordings, and we'll dive into that a little more. Stay tuned.
Heard.
Wann bist du überhaupt hier?
Ich verspreche das so, dass ich in dem Wald rein bin. Ich trag dir die Rotznase noch so lang, bis es lebt wird. Ist auch blöde Weib. Für uns gibt's kein Zurück. Nie! In alle Ewigkeit!
Sag mir den Namen.
Ich, der Judas und der Nero, der Kain und der Hitler. 5 Stimmen.
Das ist der 6.
Oh, den haben wir gelogen.
Den habt ihr dazu gehört.
All right. What do you think of those recordings?
That's what,
It's a little intense.
yeah, a little bit. But yeah, as you were able to see that, yeah, she calls out. Father asks, who's in you? Who are you? And she says, myself, Judas, Nero, Cain, Hitler, and Lucifer. That's crazy. It's just crazy. I mean,
Which is funny because in the movie, she says that I am the one who possessed Cain.
right.
I'm the one who. Basically, they were saying the ones who possessed like Cain, Nero, Hitler, Legion, Belial, and Lucifer, Satan in the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't too far deviated from what was actually said.
But yeah. So then the other interesting thing that I read was, so Father Alt was talking basically to Anneliese, and she started to discuss about a former priest back in the 1500s. His name was Fleischmann,
Mm-hmm.
and he was kicked out of the church for bad behavior, but
Right.
she was able to basically give accounts basically for communication that she had with him.
Mm-hmm.
And Father Alt was like, I can't comprehend how she could have known things about his life
Right.
that she was repeating. And it's like, as
He was
one of her
so
own
far
demons, yeah.
removed that
Yeah.
there was no way that she really could have had any knowledge of this person.
Yeah. That's, again, that's just another thing that you just add on there where I feel like this isn't mental illness, and this is a possession.
Yeah.
Things that you can't comprehend out of certain realms. I don't know.
Right. She was basically talking an increasingly amount about trying to die for the atonement for the wayward youth of the day and the apostate priest of the modern church. She basically stopped eating
Yep.
completely.
Mm-hmm.
The parents stopped consulting doctors, and they basically just relied solely on the exorcism and the priest. I guess they did a total of 67
Yep.
exorcism sessions.
And she died at 23.
23.
They
Yeah,
said 19 in the movie.
yeah. In the movie, it was 19.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they did like 1 or 2 exorcisms a week, lasting up to 4 hours each time.
Yeah.
And it was basically performed over 10 months from in the 75 to 76 range. But yeah, so basically her autopsy report stated that the cause was malnutrition, dehydration, due to being in a semi-starvation state for almost a year while the rites of exorcisms were performed.
Jesus.
She weighed 68 pounds.
That's what I'm looking at. It just blew my mind.
Suffering broken knees due to continuous genuflections, is what it's called. I'm not really too familiar what that is, but
doesn't sound good.
But she was unable to move without assistance and was reported to have contracted pneumonia. Now, something with the broken knees part was I'd heard that she would get down on her knees and pray so much to the fact that she actually torn ligaments in her knees, and I guess that's what the genuflections ended up being. But I mean, being that malnutrition, I'm sure she's so tiny.
68 pounds. I mean,
I mean, I don't remember seeing like her height or anything like that.
No,
but I wouldn't imagine she's very tall.
She wasn't really that big, I don't think. No, kind of petite.
Yeah. But anyways, the movie definitely it hit a lot of the same points as the actual true account, but in the movie it's more focused on the court battle that ensued after the fact, and in real life the parents and I think 2 of the priests involved were actually found guilty of, what was it? They weren't found guilty of homicide. It was I think it was negligent homicide. I believe they had to serve a term of like
6 months.
And
they had to pay their court costs.
Yeah, 6 months in court costs, and that was it. But
what was interesting too, the autopsy report, they confirmed that her brain was healthy and no damage could be caused because of seizures, not even on a microscope level. And that was, that's messed. I mean, again.
Well, within the movie, you see a lot of the same stuff. You see, when she first realized something. I mean, in the movie, she wakes up at 3:00 in the night or in the morning, I should say.
Yeah.
And, she gets seized up, and in the movie it portrays actually both sides of the argument, I guess you could say. At first it shows you the scene where it looks like there's an invisible entity basically straddling on top of her, grabbing her arms, trying to force her down, raise up her shirt and all this stuff. It seems really rapey. And, she smelled sulfur or something burning.
Feces.
But in the movie, it was just something burning. So, boop. So that happened. The whole seeing evil faces everywhere. It shows you like she's looking in the clouds and you'll see like lightning go off and you'll see like an evil face in the clouds, or she's in class and she looks over at a student next to her and it has this really ugly face. I'll show right here. But it's not pretty. But anyways, a lot of that stuff would happen. She started getting to the point where she didn't react to, church stuff or, crosses or anything like that very well. When it actually shows her basically being possessed was when she actually runs into the church after having a big episode of seeing all that stuff. And, she's all contorted backwards and her eyes dilate to where it's like almost full black eyes and, full Hollywood effect on this. But, I like the way that the movie would go back with like kind of with the defense side of it,
Mm-hmm.
and they would show the scene again,
Right.
but through the scientific lens where she was having the seizures.
Well, what you were saying, they looked at it from the defense point of view,
Mhm.
and they looked at it from the prosecution's point of view,
Right.
which I thought was done really well, because then they said, well, this is how this event should have taken place, and then they showed that for prosecution versus defense. That was done very well.
I guess I should have said prosecution side. They're defending the priest. But yeah. It's interesting to me. Like, I'm still kind of on the fence about the exorcism stuff, but at the same time, I'm kind of leaning more toward that it does happen. Although in this case, I kind of have my doubts. I'll say why.
No, please do.
When she was getting diagnosed with all this, psychosis and the, front temporal lobe epileptic type thing. I'm not a doctor or anything, so bear with me. But I can't remember the term, but there's like a divination type aspect to it where in a neuroscience term that I can't think of at the moment. Hopefully I'll find it by the time I edit this together. I'll put it right across the screen right here for you. But, your mind in that state will start hallucinating religious things and making it more of a real life aspect to that person with that mental disorder. So they kind of already said that she was going through that before the possession was in full effect, and you saw a lot of that whenever she ended up going into San Diego or Diamano and having that trip or whatever. Right. So, and in the tapes, she's going through there and, you're hearing her talking to, she's basically speaking in different languages, but she's also growling. And I've heard in videos and stuff is like, how can a little girl sound like that? I think they can, and here's why. Yeah? Yeah?
She can wail.
So, but more so on top of that was what she was saying, which was basically things along the lines of, each of the 6 personalities, or in that case, I think there was only 5 in the actual story, but, they were basically bad entities trying to relay the message of what not to do to be possessed or, live a good, or to live a life, saying stuff like, make sure you go to church or you'll end up in a place like this or something along that line. And to me, I don't think that an evil spirit or demon would be trying to tell you how not to end up like that. As far as I was aware growing up, they're there to lie, cheat, and steal. So, don't forget destroy.
Right.
So that was one of the parts that kind of lost me a little. I was thinking like maybe some kind of delusions of grandeur that she thought that maybe she wanted to go through this, and in her mind, through that mental state, she basically convinced herself, along with the priest and stuff, with all the exorcism things, that she was doing the right thing. In the movie, it says she, after the first failed exorcism, she writes the priest a letter, basically saying that she had a dream that somebody's calling out her name. Goes outside. Basically, spirit comes out of the body being possessed, laying on the ground. Still hears the name calling. She walks out to the field further and says that she's speaking with the Virgin Mary. And the Virgin Mary is basically saying, hey. I'm sure she said, hey. But
hey, you guys.
Hey. But basically she was saying, you can walk away right now. You can choose not to go through this. I'll take you now, and you won't feel any pain. You'll be in eternal sunshine.
All right, Mary, let's go.
Right, exactly. But she said that if you stay, it'll be miserable and painful and intense. But through you, the world will know there's evil. That's a.
So what are you gonna do? If this was you, where are you going?
I mean, I could see the benefit of the latter. Yeah. So,
Mary, let's go.
Right.
Take me home, Mary.
It's like,
take me home.
I've been through enough. They have a recording or two already, so I think I'm good. But no, it's pretty intense.
So in this case, you're not a believer of this one.
Yeah,
hardly.
I'm gonna have to say I have too many doubts to say I hold any relevance to this story. I just think it was a time where people were still, heavily relied on their faith, and that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying it's like there's still people out there today that refuse to go to hospitals because you can just pray it away,
right? And
a lot of people end up dying because of that. Not to get religious or anything, but I will say God gave us the common sense to come up with modern drugs and medicine nowadays. Medical practices and surgeries and whatnot.
Right.
So, I'm going to get hate from somebody on that. I know I will. Oh, well, everybody has their opinion. That was mine.
Downvote him.
Right. But, yeah, I don't think this one holds water. I do not. And it kind of bugs me, the fact that, she's held up as like, she's not a saint. I mean, that was what they were going for. I think she actually told her mom and the priest that, that she was basically going to be a saint for what she was doing. That didn't happen. And I mean, her gravestone still, kind of like a shrine now. But I mean, even there was an instance in 2016 where the house that the exorcism took place in burned down, and it was ruled arson, but the townspeople say the evil spirits did it. But yeah, what do you got anything else?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I the only thing that makes me believe these kind of things, and just an example is like, okay, during the routine exorcism, whoever it is that's being performed on, regardless if she knew other languages or someone did or didn't, what is it that during the process of the exorcism makes the person start speaking? Like, if that language comes out, what is it? Is it a trigger? That's where it blows my mind. It's like, even though it may not add up, and maybe these are hallucinations or it's some sort of a medical situation, but then when I'm sitting there, I listen to the tapes there.
Yeah.
And even though she speaks different languages, but then it's like the tone, the texture, what is being said.
Yeah, that's
what makes me a believer on it, because it's like, they go through the motion. If the person didn't think it was real, they would just be like, ha, 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 ha,
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm Lucifer.
Yeah.
And I'm possessing this body. This is mine. Go away type ordeal.
Well, that makes me think too, because I mean, part of the reason why I kind of straddled the fence on this one a little bit before making my decision was the fact that she was speaking in different languages and stuff, and they brought that up in the movie,
right?
And they basically wrote it off as like she was at this was a parish or something she attended, and they taught all the languages, and she took some of the languages, so they wrote it off as like, well, she could have obviously picked it up there a little bit. But at the same time,
just gonna sit there.
You don't snap your fingers and have that perfect dialect.
No, but why would she just say, "I'm gonna go take this bitch"?
Right. But my thing was like, I was just thinking about that now, actually, with me saying the fact that evil spirits or demons wouldn't tell you the good things of what you should do, kind of thing. But at the same time, we're talking about this nowadays, and that would completely write off the whole story of this person and the good deed it was supposed to do by that little bit of information there. So maybe it was just a long game lie. Yeah. Are we going to break it down like that?
No, it could,
like, could be.
It could be.
We can just write it off just based on that.
I just think, though, because of that, I just don't know why I can't go the other route. I just still believe that it's true. And these situations with these actions, with these dialogues, I just find it, I can't comprehend it. I can't think that it's not real.
Right.
So,
all right.
We're divided there, sir.
We'll show you a quick little clip and then we'll be right back and I'll tell my fun little story I have about this movie and the first time I saw it. We'll be right back.
Yes.
Hear, therefore, and fear, Satan, enemy of the faith. Give me your name, demon.
All right, so I'm just going to dive right into this.
Yes, I want to hear this because you have not shared this with me.
No.
You told me you weren't going to do it until the show.
So I watched this movie back in 2005, I believe. I was living in the place I went to college at, Tahlequah, Oklahoma. And I had like an unofficial like frat house because I had two other roommates, guys I worked with and stuff. And, you know, we all had girlfriends at the time and my bandmates were always over practicing at the house. And,
so wait, it's a frat house or a fraternity house?
It's an unofficial fraternity.
Okay, then I can't pull that on you then, because would you call your country a cunt?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So we all kind of gathered around the TV and watched this movie, and it was actually during the daytimes, so
smart move.
Wasn't that bad.
You're like, I'm not watching no exorcism movie at night.
So during the big exorcism scene that they show in the movie, you know, after it said, "I'm Satan, devil in the flesh," we hear a pound on the floor, basically, and it sounded like it was a metal door that there was a pound on.
Hell no.
And these were like wooden floors. But it sounded like it knocked against metal. We're looking around like, what the fuck was that? We look down at the carpet.
Yeah.
And we see like a rectangle kind of sink into the floor of the carpet. So now there's this rectangle little imprint into the carpet. We knock on that spot and it's metal. It's a metal door type thing or a metal sheet. We did later find out that it was a door because they had like one of those weird outdoor, like, it wasn't a cellar per se, but you could open the door on the outside of the house, walk down some steps, and you were under the house. And we looked around there, and there was like a little, I guess it was an escape hatch, because we later found out that one of the people we knew, his father was like a police officer, and that house actually used to be like a drug house where people had all kinds of hidden little doors and all kinds of stuff like that. So that was pretty interesting, but that scared me a little bit.
You think?
So all throughout the week, I'm trying to figure out what the hell that was. Couldn't come up with anything because, you know, of course we got scared trying to figure out what that was. So we went outside immediately after that smoke and nobody was around. The door that leads down underneath the house was locked with a padlock. So I just let it go. Like, I don't know what it was. I can't do anything about it. Mind you, during this time, me and my coworkers, we work overnight at Walmart at this time. So our days are completely flopped over. So my days off, I'm still staying up all night.
Right.
Well, I'm by myself at the house. And usually when I'm by myself at the house, I just hang out in my room, watch movies, play guitar, whatever. And I get overcame with such an evil feeling in this house. It was around 3:30 in the morning,
Oh, it wasn't 3?
It wasn't 3. It was like 3:30 in the morning.
Because if you told me 3, I was about to go home now.
But it was so intense that I literally had to get up, go outside, and leave. Like, I hopped in the car. I drove around for like 2 hours just waiting for the sun to come up. Because I was so freaked out. I've not had that many things like that happen to me in my life before, but that was just one of those things that I got so freaked out that I could not be in that place anymore. I can't explain what it was. That camera just went off.
They're here.
Well, I guess that's something telling me I need to stop talking.
It was the Omen.
No. Again, we like to say we have a merch store available. If you'd like to
Good lead.
help us out,
Please.
we need some camera equipment.
Yeah.
No,
Got some sweet hoodies.
doesn't matter if you get the support or not with the cameras, because we're gonna keep doing this. It's too fun. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed watching the movie. I haven't watched it since that time I told you about.
So long ago. And I always saw like bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So this was actually, yeah.
But I will have to say,
it.
like, watching it again, it was not scary to me at all.
There's certain things that scare certain people.
Yeah.
You know.
I did notice all of you jumped at that whole student jump scare
because
thing.
we kind of find normal things scary, Ron. Not like you.
Oh, man.
You started laughing in the middle of the exorcism.
I did.
That gargoyle was scary. He's like, look at that gargoyle.
Dude, when she just got up, smacked the dude in the face, and jumped out the window, that was hilarious. Just like when we watched The Exorcist, you know, that whole thing, lick me. And then she's like, bitch.
But at the same time, that's like, you'd be petrified.
Right. Well, something interesting, too, is like, what year did The Exorcist come out?
70, I'm trying to remember, 74, 75.
Okay, well, the whole thing with the Anneliese Michel happened within a year after that came out.
I think so.
So it makes me wonder, did that have anything to do with it? She did have the whole depression, seizure, and temporal lobe epilepsy when she was 16.
73.
But yeah, 20 years old, she started hearing voices and having an intolerance to the religious objects and stuff. So yeah, within 2 years. So yeah, about that time. So who knows? I mean, I'm sure I've showed a picture of this girl before by now on this podcast. You know, she's not bad on the eyes. She's pretty good looking young lady. It's really sad that had to happen.
Yeah, you don't want anyone to have to go through this kind of stuff.
Not at all. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemies. No. I mean, regardless if you believe it or not, I mean, it's just a horrible, terrible thing just in general. So if there's any chance of it ever like being real, I mean, it's just awful. Just horrible. But yeah.
There's spirits and there's demons, buddy.
Yeah, I do believe.
They're all around.
I mean, you can't believe in one thing without the other.
Whether you're good or bad,
yeah,
they exist.
Especially, you know, the spiritual aspect of the Mansfield Reformatory, which we need 1,000 likes or views on that video, and we'll send Paul right back where he can get dragged down to the floor again.
Keep asking. Let's make it happen.
Oh, it's going to be great. I hope that we're able to do that and we can do an entire podcast on location.
That would be cool.
That'd be awesome to get little voices or something picked up on the audio that's not ours.
Bring a whole bunch of cameras and just shoot all night.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was
another week.
Episode 13.
13.
It just seems like we just started doing this not long ago. It's crazy. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. Come back around next week, and we have another movie lined up. I believe, I'll go ahead and tell them, we're actually doing Old School. It's one of my favorite movies. Blue, you're my boy.
Right. Yeah.
But make sure you come back, check us out. Go to thunderroosterpodcast.com. Follow us on Instagram at Thunder Rooster Podcast, and give us some support. Show us some love. Comment. If you have any ghost stories or any kind of related experience with
please inform us.
anything.
We would love to talk about it.
Yeah,
If you got a
comment
good
on the
story,
video,
please.
send us an email at info@thunderrooster.com, and let us know if you want us to read it on air, and we will. Hope everybody has a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Peace.
I'm sorry, I was trying to impress you. I don't know what it means.